I'm really curious about this, like, because I feel like I kind of had a similar experience where there was a time where I was almost anti electronic music, and it sounds
Yeah,
like
same.
it sounds like maybe there. Yes, I'm curious. Can you talk about maybe how you discovered this, or like kind of what that bridge was, and how you made that transition?
For sure, yeah. So I was a metal guy growing up. In middle school I only listened to like Metallica.
Wow. Yeah.
Pretty funny. And then so yeah, I got into it to electronic stuff my senior year of high school. So it was a long time of like metal. I played drums. I was into like Lamb of God and all the metal bands. And then one night, 13 of my friends and I all came over to my house and took shrooms. And my friend Jerry put on the song, not that song, but he put on the song About You by XYXX. If you
Wow,
remember that one.
dude. Yes, yes. I remember that video too.
Yep. He
Wow.
put that on, and that was the first time I'd ever heard anything in that realm, like melodic, chill, electronic stuff. And it just kind of blew my mind. And from that point, I got a job. I didn't have a job. I got a job at Jimmy John's delivering sandwiches. And I saved up for 3 months so I could buy my first computer that I still have and was using until just recently. It's on the table over there. Yeah, this computer I'm on right now is actually my first nice computer I've ever owned,
Yeah.
which is kind of funny.
Another
I got it
feeling, man.
like a couple months ago. Yeah, and from there I found Shlomo on YouTube through the related section, I believe, to XX, and that's also how I found Flying Lotus and all the low end theory guys, Teebs, and just everybody in that vein, pretty much. So shout out Shrooms.
Amazing, man. Yeah, I'm so glad you brought up that YYXX song. I'm definitely gonna link that in the notes for this, so anybody who hasn't heard it can go back, because
Yeah.
that is such a cool track, man. And
Oh,
it is like,
so cool.
yeah, and people are gonna dig that if you haven't already heard it, man. So much cool space in it. Yeah.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
He was a master of making the most out of the least.
Man, just hypnotic, man. So much space. Really cool. Yeah. That's cool, man. I'm glad you rounded it out with something a little bit of on the origin story side. That's really cool to hear where that came from.
Yep, I figured I had to.
Yeah, right on. So, I don't know, man. You're a really thoughtful dude. So I want to ask you a little bit about, because when we were kind of getting ready for this, you were telling me about how the more time that you spent making music, the more you've learned that like making music is about like kind of finding out who you are and what you're about than it is about making the music. So can you just speak a little bit more on that?
For sure, yeah. I am somebody who has struggled with my mental health a lot over the years. I have a speech impediment that it used to be a lot worse. It was the main reason I dropped out of college. But it can make things difficult, from like dating or meeting new people or just ordering food at a restaurant, or just really every day I'm reminded of it in some way. And felt like I needed something to process that, and a language to speak in that wasn't verbal, so to speak, some way that I could feel fluent in something. And music has really helped me process that a lot, because it's been an easier way for me to say that I'm feeling sad, or feeling upset, or feeling good even, or just whatever it is. And in the past I felt like I've used music as an escape more so, and I still kind of battle with that sometimes, but now I try to use it as more of a healing process than something to distract me from the way I'm feeling. I try to reflect as I'm making music now, rather than using it as a distraction from the way I'm feeling at the time, which has helped, honestly.
How do you catch yourself trying to escape?
If I'm feeling like pissed as I'm making something, I'll notice. If like my main feeling I'm feeling in life is sad, but I'm feeling pissed as I'm making a song, it's probably not the most emotionally productive or healthy thing I've noticed.
Right, that's interesting. So it's like you're not sitting down to do music as work. You're sitting down to make music to convey or to process what it is that you're feeling at the time. So there needs to be like that alignment.
Yeah, yeah. Nowadays, at least, I'm definitely more in touch with that. Yeah, I am very privileged and fortunate that I can make money off of doing this, but it's what I would be doing regardless. For a long time, it was the only thing that made me feel good. Now I have some other things, but yeah, it's been there for me through a lot of things. So
That's what's up. So how do you think that you're able to communicate? Because a lot of your music up until now is instrumental. So how do you feel like you've been able to explicitly express feelings through something that doesn't have an explicit message in terms of lyrics?
that's a great question. I feel like music speaks for itself a lot of the time. Like we could ask the same thing to not to hold myself in high esteem here at all, but we could ask the same thing to like classical composers. Like, how are you? What message are you conveying? When a lot of the time it's pretty obvious what they're trying to convey if you listen to it. Like some things will be obviously very sad. Some things will obviously be very happy. And I've just tried to get in touch with my expression as much as I can and not over intellectualizing or over theorizing it too much. I can't read music. I don't know theory really. I just found what works, I guess. Took a long time for what it's worth. Maybe longer than it would have if I didn't know theory. But yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. So, have you ever made something that you felt like was one emotion, and then somebody that you know or a fan or somebody listened to it, and they completely took a different interpretation of that?
It's funny you say that. My song "Cherish," it's like
Mm.
my number one song. I made that after a traumatic experience, and I was feeling very sad. But it is a very happy song for a lot of people. It sounds kind of like cutesy or whatever. Sounds like the title. And I don't know. I guess I made it trying to hold on to good memories through a traumatic experience. If that makes sense. And yeah, I don't know.
Do you feel
That makes
like,
sense.
yeah, for sure. Because we're talking about processing through making music, do you find that you feel different after you've made it?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah, I it's cathartic for sure. If I'm feeling particularly bad emotionally and I make something reflective and intentional, I will feel better having made it. But it's journaling in a way. You put it all on a page, so to speak, and it helps you process it and think about it in a more objective way.
How do you deal with, because it sounds like some of this too is like in terms of being able to make the music that is actually in line with your emotions and catching yourself in and out of those places. How do you deal with like that voice that maybe is self-critical in the process?
I really don't. I just ignore it as much as I can. I feel like I've kind of operated under the guise of quantity equals quality over time.
Mm,
Like if I keep at it for long enough, the product over time will get better. So
hmm
I try not to overthink it too much, or if something's bad, I'll just kind of let it be bad and move on to the next one. And a lot of the time, I end up finding things I like that are maybe not technically correct, or a lot of artists would not use through accepting mistakes, um, or maybe not even mistakes, but just letting the piece be what it wants to be.
really cool. Man, that phrase quantity begets quality is a really big thing for me. And I was reviewing some I've been journaling for a few years pretty consistently. And when I first started making music and I was really frustrated with the quality of it, I literally wrote that down every day, and I forgot about it, and accidentally found I was like moving, and so I found those journals and forgot. I was like, oh yeah, I was literally writing this down every morning before I like went into the studio, and so it made me just because I like found myself in a similar place where I'm like feeling stuck sometimes when it's coming to the production specifically and the writing. So I've been writing that again every morning as a reminder to just like not worry about how good the next thing is, but to just keep making things. And so wondering if you could talk about, because I think there's a lot, I don't know any producer that doesn't struggle with this idea of I don't like what I'm making right now, or it's at some point getting stuck in like making things precious and holding on to things instead of like letting go and just moving on to the next thing. So I'm wondering if I don't know if you maybe it sounds like the way you just described it, it sounds almost nonchalant. Like, yeah, I just kind of let it go or I ignore the self-critical voice. But if there's maybe anything that you've learned or something you can offer to other producers listening about, just to keep going, even when maybe you've been making things you don't like for more than a day, maybe it's been weeks or a month, um, and so on.
I think one specific thing I can say that could be helpful is oftentimes if I find myself making something that isn't good, and I won't even say something I don't like, just something that I objectively can acknowledge isn't good. And maybe I make two or three things that day that I don't like, rather, is not good. If I push myself to make one more thing past the point, the last thing is usually pretty good. And I think I don't know, it is kind of nonchalant. I don't know. I'm gonna sound like a real wuss here, but I've struggled enough with my emotions that self-doubt isn't something I can allow into. I feel like
Mm.
in it, that's a thing that can apply to most people. Self-doubt isn't a constructive emotion. You can compare yourself to yourself, and that can be constructive. But this like internalized feeling of shame that a lot of producers experience is not productive in any way. It doesn't do anything for us other than make us feel bad.